The Texarkana Moonlight Murders, 1946. A quiet night turns deadly. It was a moonlit night in Texarkana, a small town on the border of Texas and Arkansas, in the spring of 1946. The town was known for its southern charm, quiet streets, and peaceful demeanor. But everything changed that fateful year, when a series of brutal murders gripped the area, leaving the town in a state of terror and confusion. These murders would forever be remembered as the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, one of the most chilling unsolved crimes in American history. What made these murders particularly horrifying was not just the brutality, but the eerie circumstances surrounding them. A masked killer who seemed to appear out of nowhere lurked in the shadows, attacking young couples at night. The killings occurred with a terrifying precision, and the killer's motives remained a mystery. Even more unsettling, after the last murder, the killer vanished into the night, never to be caught. The first attack, February 22nd, 1946. The story began on a cold night in late February. A young couple, Jimmy Hollis, 25, and his girlfriend, Mary Jean Larry, 19th, were parked in a secluded area known as the Lover's Lane. It was a popular spot for young couples to spend time alone in the quiet, rural areas outside the city. At approximately 11:00 p.m., a shadowy figure approached the car. Without warning, the man ordered Jimmy to get out of the car. He then struck him in the head with a heavy, blunt object, knocking him unconscious. The man then turned to Mary Jean, ordering her out of the car. She complied, terrified, and the man proceeded to blindfold her and force her to lie on the ground. He then sexually assaulted her before brutally attacking her as well. However, Mary Jean managed to survive, despite the severe blows to her head. She managed to escape and staggered to a nearby house, seeking help. Jimmy, too, managed to regain consciousness and survive the attack, though both were left traumatized by the horrific experience. The couple was lucky to be alive, but they were unable to identify the man who attacked them. March 24th, 1946, less than a month after the first brutal attack, the killer struck again. This time, the victims were Richard Griffin, 29, and Polly Ann Moore, 17th, who had also parked their car in the same secluded spot. It was around 10:30 p.m. when the assailant ambushed the couple. This time, the killer's actions were even more gruesome. After forcing Richard out of the car, the killer shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. He then turned to Polly Ann. The killer shot her as well, but she didn't die immediately. He then dragged her body into a nearby field and left her there, while also making sure the car was locked, suggesting a ritualistic aspect to the killing. The bodies were discovered by a passing motorist early the next morning, both still lying in the field. There were no witnesses, and the killer had left no obvious clues behind. Local authorities were horrified, but they had no solid leads to follow. April 14th, 1946. On the evening of April 14th, 1946, the Texarkana community was again shaken by the discovery of two more victims, Paul Martin, 17th, and Betty Jo Booker, 15th. Like the previous attacks, the young couple had parked at the same secluded spot. At approximately 11:30 p.m., the couple was ambushed by the masked assailant, who approached the car with a gun. The killer shot Paul Martin first, then turned his attention to Betty Jo. He too shot her, but this time, the killer didn't stop at just the gunshots. He proceeded to drag both bodies into the nearby woods and left them there, a chilling pattern emerging in the killer's approach. As with the other murders, no clear motive emerged, and the killer was careful to leave as little evidence as possible behind. A town in fear. As the murders continued, the small town of Texarkana descended into chaos. Fear spread through the community, and citizens began to take extra precautions. The town had never experienced anything like this before. Violent crime, especially of this magnitude, was unheard of. Local law enforcement, led by Sheriff A.V. Smith and Texas Ranger R.F. Murchison, scrambled to investigate the killings. Despite the growing number of attacks, the police had very few leads. The killer wore a mask during each attack, making it impossible for witnesses to provide a description. Furthermore, the killer's motive remained unclear. There were no signs of robbery or any personal vendettas. The most chilling part of the case was that the killer seemed to vanish after each murder, only to reappear on the following month's full moon. This predictable pattern added an eerie sense of inevitability to the case. The investigators interviewed dozens of suspects, including a local man named U.L. Swinney, but no solid evidence ever emerged to tie anyone to the crimes. The killer's identity remained a mystery. The final attack. May 3, 1946. On May 3, 1946, Texarkana was once again plunged into fear. A young couple, Virgil Starks, 37, and his wife Catherine, 36, were attacked in their home. This time, the killer did not follow the same pattern as before. Instead of ambushing them in a secluded car, the killer broke into their home while they were inside. The killer approached Virgil first, shooting him twice through the window. Virgil died almost instantly. Catherine, however, managed to hear the gunshots and hide in the house. The killer then attempted to break into the house, shooting through the windows in an effort to reach Catherine. She too was shot twice, but survived the attack. Terrified and wounded, Catherine managed to escape to a neighbor's house for help. This attack marked the end of the Moonlight Murders, but it left behind even more unanswered questions. The killer had gone from targeting couples in secluded spots to attacking in broad daylight, further intensifying the fear within the community. The unsolved mystery, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders case, would remain unsolved for decades. Despite extensive investigations, numerous suspects, and public outcry, the identity of the killer was never confirmed. The town of Texarkana was left haunted by the mystery of the murders, and the fear never truly dissipated. Some believed the killer was someone from within the town, someone familiar with the area and its residents. Others thought it might have been a drifter passing through, but no one ever discovered the truth. The case was eventually closed, and while there were several theories, no arrests were made. Some experts suggested that the killer might have been motivated by a desire for attention, others that he was simply a psychopathic murderer, a lasting legacy of fear. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders remain a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows. Though the killer was never caught, the case continues to fascinate both true crime enthusiasts and paranormal investigators who are drawn to the mystery and horror surrounding these unsolved murders. As Texarkana moved forward, the memory of those terrifying days never truly faded. The fear of the Moonlight Killer haunted the residents for years, and the case remains one of the most notorious unsolved serial killer cases in American history. To this day, no one knows the true identity of the Moonlight Killer. But one thing is certain: the legacy of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders still looms large over the town, casting a long, dark